Hi, and welcome back to my channel, where I'm working on documenting the build of my first fursuit, Blood Moon, an Eastern Sergal. On the last episode, we completed about 95% of my attempt at Sergal feet, which in the end, I really just don't like, but that's okay. I think my niche may be heads and tails. I decided to go about this build a little bit different. At about the same time I started working on the tail, I also commissioned a local builder, Sun Hollow Suits, to build her version of my tail based on the reference sheet that I sent her, as I wanted to see how the two tails compared. Now there's no hiding the fact that her tail is far superior to mine, but for my first tail, I think it works pretty good. My biggest complaint is how I attach it to the belt, and I didn't complete the tip of the tail until later, and truthfully, it really came out half-assed at the very end, so I think I'm going to rebuild the tip of the tail later. For the tails template, I just made a quick sketch on a couple pieces of poster board and called it good. I've never put a tail together, so I figured I'd just give it a shot and see what happens. Just like the previous episode, I'd like to state that this should not be used as a how-to video, because I'm doing all of this for my first time, and I plan to learn from my mistakes along the way. For me, making the mistakes and learning how to overcome them, or what not to do next time, is how I can grow as a builder. I'll still provide a general walkthrough on what I'm doing as we go. And I take the pattern pieces and orient them on the fur, ensuring that the fur is laying in the desired orientation. For this build, it's extremely symmetrical, so I take the pattern and flip it. This creates a left and a right side. I start by clipping a lot of the larger pieces together and running the straight areas through the machine, and then I have to come back and hand sew a lot of the smaller, finer details. And this is the part that I just kinda winged it. I didn't really know how to run a belt through the EVA foam, so I thought maybe if I just put a couple slits in, cut out some backing, and run the belt through. Why not? That should work, right? In the end, I don't think it's the right choice, but it does work. We'll see how long it lasts. I don't expect it to be many years, but it'll probably last at least a couple. This is one of those areas where experience seems to count, as Sun Hollow Suits has their belt loop attachment perfectly set, as it sits snugly to my back without leaving a weird gap between the top of the tail and my body. I will definitely aspire to be as good as her, but you'll see the incredible results of her version of the tail shortly. Since I didn't really know what I was doing, I figured I'm not going to put as much work into all the details as I could have, like sewing these pieces together and just making a cleaner finish. This is more of a mock-up at this point, as more of a proof of concept. Though the general concept was proven to work, it's definitely not the most effective way to run a belt loop through the tail. I feel that one misstep on the tail at a con or event, and I may be losing attachment point, and I'll probably just have to redo it in the future. But until then, I'll just leave it as is. Once again, off camera, I end up hand sewing the backing material to the skin's tail. If you've never stuffed anything with polyfill, here's a little tip. A little goes a long way. I ended up stuffing the tail with probably 3 times as much fill as needed, and it made it way too stiff and heavy. Ultimately, I ended up coming along and removing a good portion of the material, and it is so much nicer because of it. And you can see, I left the tip of the tail open, as I was waiting for different furs to arrive to complete the tip. I'd probably fix it, but I see it as my outdoor tail. That way, I don't mess up the one from Sun Hollow Suits. I feel like I've been talking down on my tail pretty much this entire time. Now don't get me wrong, I don't think it turned out bad, and it works pretty good overall. It's quite functional, and I'd be perfectly happy if I received it. But when I compare what I made to that of a professional, the little details really start to matter. For me, it's the belt loop, the movement, and really the tip of the tail that really speak to Sun Hollow's experience. Right here, you can see the overstuffed tail. It's just stiff and doesn't really move. I'm glad I removed so much of that material. Have I mentioned I really don't like those feet? They're just so big and clunky and awkward to walk in. I think I'm just gonna swap them out for a pair of boots. And here's the 2 tails next to each other, the one from Sun Hollow Suits on top and mine on the bottom. I know I've mentioned Sun Hollow Suits multiple times. This is their site on X. They have multiple pre-made tails available as well. I was able to convince my daughter to model Blood Moon for us. Look at that tail move. As we wrap up this episode, I'll mention that I'm going to forego making any pause for Blood Moon, at least for now. I've tried my hand at a few of the different fursuit components, and what I found along the way is I like the heads and the tails the most, and I think I'll just focus on those for now. That being said, the next episode will be that of a wolf head, one that is loosely based on a picture sent to me by one of my friend's daughters wearing a Therian mask. I thought that would be an interesting concept for me to try to provide my own take on converting it into a fursuit head, in colors that ultimately kind of scare me, but I'm up for the self-imposed challenge. Well, thank you again for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. And please consider liking and subscribing. Thank you.